What if I told you that the most alien landscapes ever captured on camera were not taken on another planet? What if the most otherworldly images in existence, the ones that look like concept art for a film, set 1,000 years in the future, were taken here, on Earth? With a regular camera, in places you could theoretically visit. A sandstone landscape so perfectly rendered, it looks like a simulation running on hardware that doesn't exist yet. A lake inside a mountain, lit by a single beam of light that enters through a hole in the rock above, turning the water a shade of blue that has no name in any language. A lava lake that has been burning continuously for over 100 years, a permanent open wound in the crust of the planet, glowing orange-red in the dark. A mountain so tall and so isolated that it has evolved its own ecosystem above the clouds, species that exist nowhere else, on a plateau so flat and so high that standing on it, you are standing on the roof of a continent. These places are not CGI. They are not the product of imagination. They are not the backdrop of a science fiction film, though several of them have been used as exactly that, because the human imagination, reaching for the alien, kept arriving at the same coordinates. They are real. They are here. And by the time this video is over, the word real is going to feel considerably less stable than it did when you pressed play. If this is what you came to YouTube for, the places that break your brain, told the way they deserve to be told, subscribe to Rome Folios right now. Every week, a new place that the world forgot to look at. Hit subscribe, we're just getting started. Act 1. The Simulated Worlds. There is a category of landscape that the human brain was not built to process correctly. Not because the landscape is dangerous or extreme or difficult to reach, but because it looks wrong. Specifically, it looks like something that was generated, rendered by a piece of software that had access to the rules of geology, but not to the instinct that produces restraint. The wave in the Vermilion Cliffs National Monument of northern Arizona is the most perfect example of this category that exists on the surface of the earth. It is a formation of Jurassic Age Navajo sandstone, 190 million years old, sculpted by wind and rain over millions of years into a series of undulating troughs and ridges that follow each other with a smoothness, a regularity that should not be possible in a natural system. The strata, the individual layers of sediment that were compressed into rock over geological time, are visible in the formation as bands of color: red, orange, pink, white, rust, cream. Each band represents a different period of deposition, a different season, a different wind direction, a different mineral content in the sand that fell, and the erosion has cut through all of them simultaneously, exposing every layer in the same curved surface, so that the colors run in parallel lines through the undulations following the shape of the rock, bending with it, rising and falling with it, in a pattern so precise and so deliberate looking that the first people to photograph it were accused of manipulation. The images were real. They are always real. The wave receives exactly 20 permits per day, 20 people. In the entire world, on any given day, 20 people are allowed to stand in this formation. The permit is allocated by lottery, thousands of applications for 20 spots. Some people apply for years before they get in. And when they do, when they walk the 3-mile trail from the trailhead and turn the corner and see it for the first time, the response is consistent. They stop, they say nothing. because there is nothing adequate to say about a landscape that looks like it was built by someone who wanted to show what rock could do if it were given enough time and enough wind and no instruction to be moderate. 40 miles north of Las Vegas, the Bonneville Salt Flats extend across northwestern Utah in a way that the human visual system is simply not equipped to handle. The flats are the remnant of Lake Bonneville, an ancient freshwater lake that covered a significant portion of what is now the Great Basin, reaching depths of over 300 meters before evaporating over thousands of years down to nothing. What it left behind is a crust of salt, sodium chloride, potassium, lithium that covers approximately 30,000 acres in a layer of pure white, so uniform, so flat, so uninterrupted that the horizon on a clear day appears to curve. Not because the Earth is curved, though it is, but because the surface is so perfectly flat and so completely without reference points that the eye, searching for something to anchor to, bends the horizon into a curve simply to make sense of the scale. The Bonneville Salt Flats have been used for over a century as the world's most extreme racetrack. The surface is hard enough and flat enough and long enough that it is one of the only places on Earth where land speed records can be attempted. Cars and motorcycles and rocket-propelled vehicles have reached speeds here that are otherwise only achievable in controlled test environments. The current land speed record set on these flats is over 1,000 kilometers per hour, 1,000 kilometers per hour. On salt, in Utah, the flats have also been used as a filming location for scenes set on alien planets, on post-apocalyptic wastelands, on the surface of the moon. The filmmakers did not need to change anything. They simply pointed the camera 40 miles south of Bonneville, hidden in a corner of southeastern Utah that most people drive past without stopping. Goblin Valley waits. The name is accurate. The valley floor is covered with thousands of hoodoos, mushroom-shaped formations of Entrada sandstone, eroded by millions of years of wind and rain into shapes that suggest unmistakably the presence of intelligence. Not human intelligence. Something else. Something that had a different idea about what forms were possible. Some of the goblins are the size of a human being. Some are the size of a house. They stand in clusters, in rows, alone, in pairs, apparently mid-conversation. Their caps harder rock that resists erosion balance on narrower necks that the wind has carved below. The light at sunset catches the iron oxide in the sandstone and turns the whole valley red, a specific deep red that the Navajo and other indigenous peoples of the Colorado Plateau recognized as sacred, as charged, as belonging to a category of experience that English doesn't have a clean word for. The valley was used as a filming location for Galaxy Quest. The filmmakers said they chose it because it required the least digital alteration of any location they scouted. It already looked like another planet. It has always looked like another planet. Act 2. Fire and Ice. In the Rocky Mountains of Alberta, Canada, the North Saskatchewan River has been dammed to create Abraham Lake, a reservoir completed in 1972. Unremarkable by the standards of man-made lakes, surrounded by mountains and forests that are beautiful in the specific way that Canadian mountains and forests are beautiful, which is to say, considerably. But in winter, Abraham Lake does something that no other body of water in the world does, as visibly, as dramatically, or as photogenically. The lake freezes, and as it freezes, the methane gas produced by bacteria decomposing organic matter on the lake bed rises through the water in bubbles. Under normal lake conditions, this gas would escape when it reaches the surface. But Abraham Lake freezes from the top down rapidly, trapping the bubbles as they rise. The result visible through ice that forms with an extraordinary clarity, almost glass clear, over water that is deep and blue below, is a lake full of frozen bubbles, not small bubbles. Bubbles the size of dinner plates, the size of manhole covers, stacked in columns as they rose, frozen in layers, suspended in the ice like specimens in amber, preserving the exact moment of their arrest in a record that is visible from the surface, from above, from every angle. Walking on Abraham Lake in winter carefully, with the awareness that the ice is thick but not infinite, that the water below is very deep and very cold, is one of the most surreal experiences available to a human being without leaving this planet. Below your feet, through clear ice, frozen bubbles hang in columns. Above you, the Canadian Rockies. Around you, silence. The silence of a frozen lake in winter is a specific silence. Not the silence of an empty room, not the silence of a quiet forest. The silence of something that was moving water, wind, and has been stopped. The silence of arrested motion. In 1963, on November 14th, fishermen on a trawler off the southern coast of Iceland noticed smoke rising from the ocean. They reported a fire at sea. There was no fire. What they were seeing was a volcanic eruption beginning below the surface of the ocean magma, rising through a fissure in the ocean floor, heating the water above it, producing the steam that the fishermen mistook for smoke. Over the next 3.5 years, the eruption continued. The magma reached the surface. Lava flowed into the sea and cooled and solidified and accumulated. An island appeared, grew, stabilized. And on the 5th of June 1967, the eruption ended, leaving behind a new island roughly 2.7 square kilometers of basalt rock, rising from the North Atlantic at a latitude of 63 degrees. Surtsey, named after Surtur, the fire giant of Norse mythology. Surtsey is the youngest island on Earth by date of emergence. It has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2008. And it has been, since the moment the lava cooled, the subject of one of the most extraordinary biological experiments in the history of science. An island that did not exist 50 years ago is now colonized. Seabirds arrived within years of the eruption ending. Their droppings brought seeds. Plants took root in the volcanic rock. Insects arrived carried on the wind from Iceland, 33 kilometers to the north. A seal colony established itself on the shoreline. Earthworms appeared in the soil that began forming from decomposed bird matter and volcanic mineral. Scientists have been watching this process unfold in real time, documenting the colonization of an island by life from absolute zero. No prior ecosystem, no inherited biology, just rock and sea, and the relentless, patient, unstoppable pressure of life toward any available surface. Surtsey is closed to almost all visitors. A small team of scientists is permitted to land, briefly, for research purposes. The island is a controlled experiment, and human presence with all the seeds and microbes and disturbance that humans carry would contaminate the data. So, it sits out there in the North Atlantic, 33 kilometers from Iceland, growing, becoming something, in real time. In a time frame that humans can actually observe, a planet forming. In the Afar region of northeastern Ethiopia, where the African and Arabian tectonic plates are slowly, centimeter by centimeter, pulling apart a process that will eventually open a new ocean, in a few million years, the volcano Erta Ale does something that almost no other volcano on Earth does continuously. It maintains an active lava lake. Not a lake in the metaphorical sense. Not a caldera with occasional lava pools. A lake of lava that has been liquid and active and glowing with only brief interruptions for over 100 years. Possibly much longer, Erta Ale was not studied by Western scientists until the 20th century, but the Afar people who live in this region have known about it and feared it and named it for generations. They call it the gateway to hell. It is 613 meters above sea level. The summit is reached by a walk across a lava field, black, sharp, radiating heat that takes between 6 and 8 hours depending on your pace and the ambient temperature, which in the Afar Depression regularly exceeds 50 degrees Celsius. At the summit, you lie on the rim of the caldera and look down. 40 meters below, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the level of activity, the lava lake moves. It does not sit still. It convects hotter lava rising from below, cooler surface crust sinking, creating a slow, continuous churning that produces patterns on the surface. Patterns that look like something alive. The surface crust breaks and reforms. New lava wells up through the cracks, orange-white in the dark, cooling to black within seconds. The lake breathes, or it appears to breathe. And in the dark, which is when most visitors choose to make the final approach, to see it at its most dramatic, the glow it produces lights the underside of the volcanic gas clouds above the caldera in shades of orange and red that have no counterpart in the ordinary world. The temperature at the rim is close to unbearable. The smell of sulfur is constant, and the sound, a low, irregular percussion of the crust cracking and reforming, overlaid with a hiss from the degassing magma below, is unlike anything else on this planet. Erta Ale is one of the most remote and most extreme destinations accessible to civilians on Earth. It is also, without question, one of the most alien. You are looking at the interior of the planet, not a representation of it, not a model or a diagram. The actual interior, 40 meters away. Act 3. The Hidden Worlds. The Yucatán Peninsula of southeastern Mexico sits on top of a vast platform of porous limestone, a geological formation called karst, riddled with underground chambers and rivers and caves created as acidic groundwater slowly dissolve the rock over millions of years. When the roofs of these chambers collapse, they create openings from the surface to the water below. The Maya called them cenotes, from the Yucatec Maya word zonot, meaning sacred well. They were not wrong about the sacred part. The Maya used the cenotes for water. The Yucatán has almost no surface rivers, so the cenotes were the primary source of fresh water for an entire civilization. They also used them for ritual. Objects and people were deposited in the cenotes as offerings. The archaeology of the cenotes is extraordinary, and the cenotes themselves are something that no description has ever managed to adequately capture. The water is cold-fed by underground rivers flowing through rock, far below the reach of the tropical sun. It is fresh, perfectly clear, filtered through limestone, free of the sediment that colors surface water. And the light that enters through the opening above, through water of that specific clarity, in a shaft that narrows as it descends through the water column, bending at the helicline where fresh surface water meets the denser salt water that intrudes from the ocean below. The light in a cenote is not the light of the ordinary world. It is the light of a place that was hidden for millions of years and then opened, not for us, but in spite of us. Blue-white at the top, deepening to teal, then turquoise, then a deep, specific green at the level where the halocline sits, where the refraction changes because the water changes, and the light bends and creates the impression of a second surface, a ghost surface, a membrane between two different physics. Then darkness below. Divers who have explored the full extent of the Yucatán cave system, one of the longest underwater cave systems in the world, over 350 kilometers of mapped passages beneath the jungle, report that the experience of moving through the cenote system in full darkness, guided only by a light that illuminates a few meters of tunnel ahead, is one of the most profoundly disorienting and profoundly beautiful experiences available to a human being. You are inside the planet. You are breathing. You are moving. And the planet, for the moment, is letting you. In the northeastern state of Bahia in Brazil, hidden in a cave system called the Abismo Anhumas, accessible only by rappelling 72 meters down a vertical shaft in the dark, there is a pool of water. The pool is roughly 80 meters long. The water is 56 meters deep, and for approximately an hour each day, between roughly 10 and 11 inches the morning, a beam of sunlight enters through a natural shaft in the cave roof and strikes the water at an angle that lights the entire interior of the cavern. The Pozo Encantado, the enchanted well, is lit for that 1 hour by a single shaft of light. It turns the water blue. Not uniformly blue, not flatly blue. Blue in the way that stained glass in a cathedral is blue lit from within, varying in intensity with every cloud that passes over the entrance above, shifting from pale sky blue to deep cobalt as the angle of the sun changes through the hour. The visibility in the water is approximately 60 meters. Looking down into the Pozo Encantado from the surface during that hour of light, you can see the bottom of the pool 56 meters below with a clarity that belongs more to air than to water. The cave was used by locals for generations before anyone thought to photograph it. They did not need photographs. They had the thing itself. In the mountains of central Vietnam, beneath a range of limestone karst, there is a cave that deserves its own category. Not the largest cave in the world, that is Sun Dung, which appeared on our previous video. The third largest, Hang En. Its name means swallow cave. For the millions of swallows that nest in its upper chambers, their calls echoing through the interior in a sound that resembles, in its totality, the sound of a crowd heard from outside a stadium. Hang En is large enough to contain an entire river, the Rao Tuong, which flows in from one end of the cave through a chamber large enough to have its own weather and out the other side. On the river's sandy banks, inside the mountain, there is a beach. And on the beach, in complete darkness except for the lights carried by the expedition, people camp. You sleep on sand, underground, beside a river, inside a mountain. Above you, invisible in the dark, the cave roof rises over 100 meters. Swallows move through the blackness, navigating by echolocation, their calls continuous and strange. The river moves beside you. And in the morning, as the sun rises outside the mountain, a shaft of light enters through the main entrance passage and illuminates the cave interior slowly, progressively, like a theater coming to life before a performance. The light moves across the sand, across the river, up the cave walls, and for a few minutes, you can see the full interior of the space you slept inside. It is vast, it is beautiful, and it is unambiguously the most unusual bedroom most people will ever wake up in. If you are still here, and I hope you are, because what comes next is the strangest part of this list. Subscribe to Rome Folios right now. This is what we make every week. Something like this. Hit subscribe. Don't miss the next one. Act 4. The Living Alien. In the Western Pacific Ocean, in the island nation of Palau, there is a lake on an island that is itself on the ocean. Marine Lake. Inside it, over millions of years of geographic isolation, the lake was separated from the surrounding ocean by a rise in sea level that cut it off from tidal exchange. A population of golden jellyfish evolved. Mastigias papua et pisoni, golden jellyfish. In the open ocean, jellyfish sting because stinging is how they catch prey. In Marine Lake, there are no predators, and the golden jellyfish, over thousands of generations of evolution in a predator-free environment, lost their sting. Not reduced it, lost it. The nematocysts, the stinging cells, are present but non-functional. They cannot penetrate human skin. The result is a lake containing millions of jellyfish that you can swim through. You put on a mask, no fins to avoid disturbing them, and you descend into a body of water that is full of pulsing, translucent, golden organisms moving around you in every direction. They press against your skin gently. They part around your hand when you move it. They pulse their bells, contracting and expanding at the rate of about 1 pulse per second in the rhythmic, ancient way that jellyfish have pulsed for 500 million years. Jellyfish are older than trees, older than the dinosaurs, older than almost any multicellular organism you will ever encounter. And in Jellyfish Lake, you are surrounded by them, moving through them, part of the column of water that they move through, for approximately 30 minutes before the deeper water becomes too depleted of oxygen for safe diving. You exist inside an ecosystem that has been evolving separately from the rest of the ocean for thousands of years. You are, for those 30 minutes, an alien intrusion into a world that developed in complete independence from yours. The jellyfish don't sting you. They have never needed to. The Atacama Desert in northern Chile is the driest non-polar desert on Earth. In some parts of the Atacama, no rainfall has been recorded in recorded history. Not rare rainfall, not occasional rainfall, no rainfall. The desert sits in a rain shadow cast by the Andes to the east and the Chilean coastal range to the west. Moisture systems coming from the Pacific are blocked by the coastal range. Moisture systems coming from the Amazon basin are blocked by the Andes. The Atacama sits in between, in a permanent drought that has lasted, in some areas, for roughly 40 million years. The soil in the driest parts of the Atacama is so completely lacking in organic matter, so thoroughly lifeless, that when scientists took samples from the Atacama in the 1970s and ran them through the life detection instruments of the Viking Mars landers, the instruments found nothing. The Atacama soil tested as indistinguishable from Martian soil. NASA now uses the Atacama as a testing ground for Mars rovers. The robots that will explore Mars are trained first in the Atacama, because the Atacama is as close to Mars as Earth gets. But the Atacama is not dead. In the rare years when sufficient moisture reaches it fog from the Pacific or the occasional penetrating rain system, the desert blooms. The seeds of flowering plants, dormant in the soil for years or decades, germinate simultaneously. Within weeks, a landscape that was brown and gray and mineral becomes carpeted with flowers. Pink, yellow, purple, white, millions of flowers blooming together in the driest place on Earth. Scientists call it the flowering desert. It happens unpredictably. It has not been photographed adequately. It cannot be scheduled. You have to be there when it happens, which means either extraordinary luck or extraordinary patience. And when it does happen, when the driest desert on Earth briefly becomes a garden, the contrast is so extreme, so improbable, so specifically beautiful, that the word impossible keeps occurring to people who are standing in the middle of it. Act 5. The Edges. On the coast of Namibia, where the Namib Desert meets the South Atlantic Ocean, there is a stretch of coastline approximately 500 kilometers long that has, since the earliest European maps of the region, been called the Skeleton Coast. The name refers to the whale bones that once littered the beaches here, deposited by the indigenous sand bushmen who came to this coast to harvest the stranded carcasses of whales. It also refers to the ships. The cold Benguela Current, flowing north along the African coast, generates one of the densest and most persistent fog systems in the world as it meets the warm air above the Namib. The fog rolls inland from the ocean for tens of kilometers, reducing visibility at sea to near zero. Ships that came too close to this coast in the age before GPS did not always leave it. Over the centuries, hundreds of ships have run aground on the Skeleton Coast. Their hulls rusting, half buried in sand, tilted at angles that suggest the final moments of their groundings remain, because in the Namib, almost nothing decays. The fog provides enough moisture to prevent the metal from rusting completely, but not enough to support the microbes that would break it down. The ships sit, tilted, rusting, silent. Cape Fur seals rest against their hulls. Jackals patrol the beaches around them. The fog moves in from the ocean and covers everything: the ships, the seals, the sand and white, and the skeletons of the animals that died here, the whales beached in the cold surf, the seals taken by sharks, the ships taken by the coast bleached slowly in the sun between fog banks. It is one of the most desolate places in the world. It is also one of the most beautiful because desolation, at sufficient scale, tips into something else. Something that the word sublime was invented to describe. In the Guyana highlands of South America, on the borders of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, a series of flat-top mountains rise from the jungle floor. Tepuis. We mentioned them on our previous list. But one tepui deserves its own extended treatment because one tepui is not merely unusual. It is a world, Mount Roraima, 2,810 meters above sea level. Its summit plateau covers approximately 31 square kilometers. Its walls are vertical sheer cliffs of Precambrian sandstone, dropping hundreds of meters to the jungle below. It has been isolated from the ecosystems below it for so long that the species on its summit have evolved in complete separation. Plants that exist nowhere else on Earth, animals that exist nowhere else. A species of frog, Oreophrynella quilchi, that lives only on this plateau, found nowhere else in the world. The plateau is almost perpetually wrapped in cloud. The temperature differential between the warm air rising from the jungle and the cold air above the summit creates a permanent weather system that keeps the summit mist covered for most of the year. It rains almost every day on Roraima. The water falls off the edge of the plateau in waterfalls that begin on the plateau surface, reach the rim, and drop hundreds of meters into the jungle below, forming some of the highest free-falling waterfalls in South America. Arthur Conan Doyle read accounts of Roraima in 1912 and wrote The Lost World, the story of a plateau in South America, where dinosaurs had survived into the modern era, isolated from the evolutionary pressures that had killed them elsewhere. He never visited. He didn't need to. The reality was sufficient. Climbing Roraima takes 3 days from the nearest village. The ascent is through jungle, then cloud forest, then the vertical walls via a natural ramp on the Venezuelan side that is the only non-technical route to the summit. On the summit, you walk on pink quartzite paved with carnivorous plants. You look out from the edge and see, if the clouds permit, the jungle stretching in every direction to every horizon. You look up and see clouds at eye level. You are standing above the weather. You are on the oldest exposed rock in South America, over 1.7 billion years old. The plateau was here before complex life, before animals, before plants. It was here when the atmosphere of Earth contained almost no oxygen, and the planet's surface was being shaped by forces that no living thing existed to witness. In Hunan province in China, a mountain contains a tunnel, not a man-made tunnel. A natural arch 131 meters tall through which the sky is visible from the valley floor on the other side. Tianmen Mountain. Tianmen means heavenly gate, the gate to heaven, and the natural arch at its summit, visible on clear days from the valley far below, has been a sacred site in Chinese culture for centuries. The mountain is now accessible by cable car, the longest in the world, at 7.5 kilometers, and by a road that winds up the face of the mountain in a series of 99 switchbacks. On the cliff face near the summit, a glass walkway extends over the edge. The glass is transparent, below it 1,000 meters of nothing. The walkway is narrow, the drop is real, and the view through the glass below your feet, through the mist that frequently wraps the upper mountain, to the valley floor, a vertical kilometer below, is one of the most explicitly science-fictional views available on this planet without a spacecraft. You are walking on air, over a cliff, on a mountain. In China, Through a gate in the rock above you, the sky is framed. And then there is Guilin. If Tianmen is the science fiction of vertical scale, Guilin is the science fiction of horizontal mystery. The Li River flows south from the Mauer Mountains through a landscape of karst formations, limestone pinnacles rising from the flat river valley like teeth, or like the backdrop of a painting, or like the landscape of a planet that evolved under different rules of erosion. The peaks are between 100 and 500 meters tall. They are separated by flat ground. And in the morning, in the specific early morning hour before the river traffic begins, when the mist from the river has not yet burned off and sits in the valleys between the peaks, the landscape looks like it was made from layers. The nearest peaks are solid and dark. The peaks behind them are paler, slightly less defined. The peaks behind those are paler still. And the peaks at the furthest visible distance are barely there at all, white shapes in white mist, more suggestion than substance. The effect is of looking at a landscape that is becoming real as you watch, as if the world is still being rendered, as if the far peaks are waiting for you to approach before they fully form. Chinese painters have been capturing this landscape for over 1,000 years. They called the style Shanshui mountain water. They were not trying to produce photographic accuracy. They were trying to capture the feeling of a landscape in which the solid and the mist were equally real. They succeeded. But the thing itself is still more real than the paintings. It always is. The science fiction is not in the future. It never was. It has been here, in the rock, in the water, in the ice, and the living organisms of this planet, since before we arrived to notice it. We spent centuries imagining other worlds, building them in stories and films and games, projecting onto the stars the landscapes we hoped were out there. We didn't need to. The Wave, Abraham Lake, Erta Ale, Jellyfish Lake, Roraima, Guilin in the morning mist, the cenote lit from above in the hour before the tour boats arrive, the skeleton coast at dawn, with the fog still on the water and the ship still tilted in the sand. All of it was here. All of it is here. And the only thing required to see it as science fiction, as alien, as other, is to pay attention, to actually look at what the planet made without asking our permission in the billions of years before we showed up. It is stranger than we imagined. It is better, and we have barely begun to see it. If this video changed the way you see the world, even slightly share it with someone who needs to see it too. Subscribe to Rome Folios for a new place every week, told this way, at this depth. And leave a comment which place on this list made you say, that cannot be real. Because the answer to that question is always the same. It can. It is. I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.